I only got to know about him from my experience of living in India for 6 years. Even after living there for so long, I still need my parents to translate some parts. My life is one of constant change. I've lived in 2 different countries, 4 different cities, and I've changed schools 4 times since first grade. My life has changed quite a bit since my family and I first moved from Los Angeles to India when I was 9 years old. When we lived in LA, my parents had wanted to go back to their home country for a long time, but they kept on delaying it until the next year. But that all changed when my grandfather was diagnosed with kidney cancer, and he needed someone to take care of him. A month later, we essentially upped and left everything we had known for the past 9 years. Moving to India was a huge change for me because I did not know the language and it was a completely new environment. It took me a long time to fully settle in. I did not want to move. Whenever my parents would start talking about the move, I would make up some sort of excuse and leave the room. I visited my family in India multiple times, but I didn't know them as well as I did everyone in LA. I knew a little Hindi and Urdu, but just enough for the short conversations I used to have with my relatives in India over the phone. My parents had tried to get me to learn how to read and write Hindi, but it was a very slow process, due for the most part to my own reluctance. I just didn't want to leave my home. But I got over myself soon enough and realized that no one wanted to be in that situation. My father did not want his father to be so sick, but he felt obligated to go. So we moved. It was very hurried, and we were greeted at the airport with a wave of our relatives and many hugs and kisses, and we left for our new home. There were many differences I had to learn to work my way around in India. First and foremost was the language. When we were in LA, I had never felt the need to learn how to read and write Hindi, no matter how much my parents wanted me to. Imagine my surprise when I had to learn it in a few months. I completely dedicated myself to learning how to read and write Hindi, and soon enough, I got to the same level as my classmates. I remember being immensely proud of myself when we had to recite a Hindi poem in class, and I recited it perfectly, if I do say so myself. In time, I got much better at it, but I was never quite as comfortable with Hindi as I was with English. If I hadn't been able to learn Hindi that quickly, my life in India would have been a lot harder. It still took me some time to fit in. My classmates were curious about my life and how I ended up in India, but beyond that, no one was particularly interested in being my friend. But I managed to find some friends, and now I have no problem making friends, no matter where I go. The most important step to adapting to my strange new life was to accept it. I knew that we would be going there, possibly forever, but I was extremely averse to the idea of leaving my home. But I also knew we had to go, so I decided I would rather go there with an open mind than make myself miserable. Over the next 6 years, I would meet many new people. I got to know my family and build relationships with the people I had only ever heard of in stories. I made many new friends and went to 3 different schools. I learned the language, the culture, and eventually settled into my life in India. I did still miss my old home, but in time that turned into nostalgia rather than sadness. When I finally thought I had settled in, there was a new change. In March of 2015, my father was diagnosed with leukemia. It was a huge shock. When my mother first told me, my first question was, is he going to be okay? She said yes, but it would take 2 years. But that was all that mattered. Over the next few months, our house would become akin to a railway station, with our family coming and going from all over the world to help us and to be with us throughout that time. That was the first time when I got the idea that if we had been in LA, we wouldn't have had that support system. In time, my father got better, and we adjusted to it being a part of our lives. A few days after my mother told me about my father's diagnosis, I started writing. I wrote humor, which is quite surprising considering the circumstances. I wrote about myself and my life, and hesitantly sent it to my friends, and then my family. I was pleasantly surprised to see that they all enjoyed it. My father was in the hospital at the time, and I was overjoyed when he sent back an email saying that he loved it too. It was my way of coping, and it helped. I was so proud of being able to put a smile on people's faces, even through such a difficult time. Along with writing, I found comfort in my books and my music. I've been reading books my entire life. I was surrounded by them when I grew up because both my parents loved to read. I read books like Harry Potter and Percy Jackson and many more because I loved the idea of there being magic or supernatural beings. Some of my friends and I were united in our love for books, and we would always be involved in passionate discussions about whatever we were currently reading. My books were my safe space. I could always retreat to them whenever, no matter what was going on in my life. The same went for my music. My parents mostly listened to old Bollywood songs, and I quickly tired of them. So I started exploring new music, and my aunt got me a Spotify account, for which I will forever be grateful. I started exploring new music and developed a taste of my own, and it was also a comfort for me. It was also a way I could connect to other people. After the first year of my father's treatment, we came here to Albany to visit my aunt's family, and we went to Boston to get a second opinion from a doctor there. She told us that in case of a relapse, my father would be better treated here than there. So my parents decided to move. Again. I was a little happier about this move though, because the month that we spent here showed me just how much I missed being here in the US. But I also felt guilty. My parents had to leave their family all over again. It was hard for my little sisters too. My youngest sister was born in India, and that was the only place she had ever known. I would be leaving all of my family and all of the friends I had gotten to know. But my parents knew it was the right choice, so over the next year we planned the move, part 2. And on May 3rd, 2017, we came here to our new home. I still am in contact with a lot of my friends from LA and India. We message each other pretty frequently and still manage to stay in touch, even after being so far apart. Because of our moving around so much, I made some amazing friends and had amazing experiences. But I also missed out on a lot of what people my age would call their childhood. So I get a lot of, "You never watched XYZ? Have you been living under a rock?" To which I respond, "No, I just wasn't here for 6 years." It usually gives them pause. But I don't mind so much anymore because I know my experience of life is truly unique, even with the occasional judgmental stare. We've also found more family here. I got to know my aunt and her family a lot better. Over the past 2 years, my family from Canada and Sweden joined us here to celebrate the holidays, and we really enjoyed our time together. We're extremely fortunate in that even after being all across the world, we're able to get together and enjoy our time together. Living in 2 different countries with different cultures and languages also gave me a new perspective on myself and my life. I'm a lot more comfortable with being both Indian and American. Even though in some places, at some points, I am too different, either too American or too Indian. But I know my experience of life is unique, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. All that change in my life showed me that change might not always be a bad thing. While the events that triggered those changes might not have been particularly amazing, we learned to make the best of it, and I was able to have a really unique experience of life. Adapting to changes can be hard. Trust me, I know. But even if it seems too difficult at first, it always gets easier. I knew that I would find my place in India, as I knew I would here. I knew that there was more to come, beyond just whatever difficulty I was facing. As Allama Iqbal said, "Tu shahi hai, parwaaz hai kaam tera. Tere samne asmaan aur bhi hai, sitaron se aage jahan aur bhi hai." You are an eagle. Flight is your vocation. You have other skies stretching out before you. Other worlds exist beyond the stars. Thank you.